Hi everyone, welcome to the Pitch podcast. This is your host, Victor DeJesus. I'm here with my co-hosts, Braden Eddy, Wyatt Douglas, and Dylan Kralovic. Today we're interviewing Steve and Brad. Now we're just going to ask them a couple questions.
All right, so we're here with Steve and Brad. So to start off, I understand you guys are entrepreneurs. Can you explain from the beginning what made you get into that field?
Yeah, I can, because mine's a little bit interesting. I 16 years old, my first job, working at a grocery store bagging groceries, and didn't like working for someone else. So the day after I graduated high school, I started my first business with a buddy of mine as I was going to college, and never looked back. My bagging groceries was my only real job in life, where I worked for somebody. And since I was 18 years old, I've worked for myself. Multiple different companies I've started and sold and moved on, and always looking for the next opportunity out there to keep moving forward. And it's funny, because I was thinking this morning, the guy that I started the business with, my first business, we're still very, very good friends, and we're working on another little venture right now. All these, 30-something years later, we're still doing the same thing.
Interesting. I guess I'm curious, what was the first business that you started with your friend?
So it was called B&B Steam Cleaning, Brad and Brett Steam Cleaning. But what it was back then, this is the late 80s. It wasn't as popular as it is now. But you go to gas stations or outside of businesses, and you see all those black spots all over on the floor and on the cement and stuff. It's usually gum, stains, stuff like that. So we had this big machine. It would go on a trailer behind us with 500-gallon water tank and a big steam unit, and we would clean the front of businesses, and you'd make that sidewalk, that area, look brand new with this machine. We'd do car dealerships in the service bays where oil spills and stuff like that. And one of our it was a great little kind of sales strategy we'd have. We'd go, say, for instance, a gas station that looked really bad. We'd go do a 3-by-3 foot area right in front of their door. And then we'd say, see how good it can look? And then if they didn't do it, they'd have this area right in front of their door that looked great, and the rest of the place didn't. So it was a great kind of sales technique, where they're like, well, yeah, now we kind of have to get it done. But it worked well. It was a fun learning business. And then we did a lot of Big Five chain stores in front of there, Starbucks, some different businesses like that.
So it sounds like your first business was a pretty good success for your first one.
It was. One of the problems that we came up against, we were young at the time. We didn't have a lot of money starting out. And a lot of these companies we were dealing with wanted higher and higher liability insurance policies. So I walked out of their door. We do most of the work at night, but still, someone walked out of the door and slipped and fell. We needed to be responsible for that. And those policies, they just, okay, we need $1 million, so we get that. Oh, now we need $5 million. It just our costs just kept increasing and increasing. So that's kind of what slowly drove us into other businesses and avenues, because it just wasn't, our costs were just getting too high.
Yeah.
I got a quick question about it as well. Where did you get the money to fund your first business when you started out? How'd you go about getting the funds required to even get the machine in the first place?
So that's a great question, because that kind of goes with a lot of things, how business still works for me. And that's why I wanted Steve on this as well, because we think alike, we work alike. We're from a little bit different generation, where it's all about relationships and building those relationships and never burning bridges, being trustworthy and all that. And that's how that started. It was a guy that I knew, who had this machine sitting in a shop that he had bought for so long ago, I can't remember what it was for. And we worked out a deal with him where we pay him and make monthly payments on the machine to get it started. And yeah, I still talk to that guy to this day. So that was something that I wanted to talk about, and this is just the relationships that you build. My customers that I sell to now, I've been selling to for 25, 30 years. I'm their guy, because we have created that relationship. You go over and above and do all you can for these people, and you can get a lot in return that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with like schooling now, is it necessary to go to college and get like business degrees or anything you need for this like type of field, or do you think you could do something like this, start your own business out of high school?
It's an interesting question for me because
I got an 18-year-old, right, Brad? And I think you have an 18-year-old.
He's 17, but yeah, and colleges are a lot different these days. The quick answer that a lot of people probably wouldn't want to hear is no, you don't need it. It's really life experience and relationships that you build that really make success. Degrees are great to open up doors, but as an entrepreneur, it's more about just working your butt off all the time, every day. You're never on vacation. You never clocked out, and you learn a lot that way. And college is great, but a lot of times, I went to college, but I never even finished. I had too many things going on. I didn't know what that degree was going to do for me. And I was close to graduating, and I just moved on from it and never finished.
And that's because the money starts changing your perspective. And when you got into entrepreneurial spirit, which we all have, your perspective changes a little bit where, like for example, my son is 18 and his goal is to go minimize the cost of getting an undergraduate degree, but he really wants to go to USC to get his MBA at the Marshall School of Business. That's his goal, and he works a lot. He works right now. He takes a lot of school right now, and but he's also got, Brad, you know this. He's got my DNA in me somehow, where it's all relationship driven. So when he built a PowerPoint, for example, of top 10 schools he really wants to go, where he really wants to go, and he had a couple of them where they had like under 2,000 students, and I'm like, you're too much like me. That's you'll run the school, and so it really is adaptive. It's interesting because I know so many 17, 18-year-olds are trying to sort through COVID and stuff like that, and so I try to be pragmatic about it with him. I'm like, you know what? You want to be in a business world. I've taught him relationships and honesty, integrity, and transparency is everything in life. And stick to your personal convictions. And I've also told him, I said, if you do that, and let's say you've got a degree from USC undergrad, instead of getting your MBA from there, because I went to Long Beach State, and I almost went to USC, but I'm like, I don't know if I want those bills.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's not cheap. And it's not cheap. It's even worse now. So I was like, okay, well, where do you want, what are you trying to accomplish? And I've told many a kid as a mentor, and a lot of high school kids in the years, like, and then college kids, like, if you're going after your MBA because you're in your 30s and you feel like it's going to improve your situation at your current employer, okay, then go get it. But I'll put 4 years of pragmatic experience of working with and going to school at the same time ahead of that, and a degree that's going to be carried, that will carry outside of Southern California.
Yeah.
As way more powerful overall. So it's like that's what right now he's going to community college because it's free. He's getting straight A's. He's got 18 units he's taking all the time. I'm very proud of all that stuff, and he works too. And the pragmatic skills. Going back to what you were saying earlier, Brad, is like you've been working since you were 14 or 13, like I was. I didn't care what it was, but I was washing cars. I was mowing people's lawns. I was working at retirement homes. That none of it, it's all a lot of physical labor and all that kind of stuff. And then I went over to, I went to college and had a job at Hughes Aircraft. If you guys remember the name of Hughes Aircraft, Hughes, now part of Raytheon, McDonnell Douglas, or Grumman. And it just kind of leaves a map. So I wanted to just throw in some context to it, Brad, because this is why you and I get along so well, because even though we have really similar experiences with owning companies and selling companies and merging companies, that experience came, and how did you build the money to do it? Yeah, there's a story around each time, right? That's why you and I are like brothers from another mother sometimes.
Right. Yeah, we definitely think alike. Our lives have kind of gone in parallel directions for all these years.
And up until recently, I like golf, but I can't do it. I'll leave that to my son. He's the
golf guy.
Well, he works at at the Yorba Linda Country Club, and he went from being a lettered athlete at Yorba Linda High for volleyball and basketball and starter to that's not interesting anymore. But golf seems to be really cool, and I wish he had said that 3 years ago, because I think golf is the lifelong sport.
Oh, definitely,
yeah.
Golf too.
And it's funny, with some of the questions you just asked. It's such a good place to make relationships at and make contacts at. I was playing golf, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. And there's three of us. I mean, I'm riding in a cart by myself, and then two buddies. And there's a guy walking behind us, playing by himself. And it was kind of slow. And I'm like, hey, do you just want to join us? You can jump in my cart. He goes, yeah, that'd be great. And it turns out he's the vice president of Quicksilver, which I'm sure you guys have heard of Quicksilver.
Yeah,
and we were still great friends. I've gotten a ton of business out of them. They come to me when they have problems and need something solved, and someone is going to think outside the box. So yeah, that was all from me just saying, hey, you want to jump in my golf cart?
Yeah, so it's all about connections, like you said. Have you guys always just been in this creative mindset and wanted to hustle for money, or is there any, I guess, inspiration or motivation to really come up with new ideas to make some money?
Brad, let me take that first.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm a little bit. I've moved my entrepreneurial spirit from owning a company to becoming a business partner, and so I still have ownership, but it's a little different. I'm not running it. It's not my company.
Yeah.
And one of the things I can do within this company is grab an industry that's in need. If it's for cleaning and microban and or to work through what's the best way to drive an opportunity forward with sanitizing stuff, and even to the point of leveraging my relationships within the Diocese of Orange in California. That's in, how do we do that, and how does that build to, well, they don't need this. They really are hurting because they have adequate infrastructure on the technology side. Maybe they use Cisco, maybe they use Amazon, I don't know, but they don't have that. And they don't have an understanding of how to guide the customer's experience, the journey of the customer, and how the customer wants to have the flow of discussion and the flow of communication, being that a phone call versus, oh, I like web chat, or I like to go use Messenger and Facebook or Instagram. Okay, I get it, right? So understanding your audience in there, and then like for the last couple of weeks, cybersecurity. And so I went to my CEO just the other day and said, I think we should be like all hands on deck on focusing on cybersecurity and really expanding that practice, because it's applicable right now more than ever. So being able to adapt and be the consultative layer and bring that in is that's the stuff that really drives me. It's not that you're just focused on one thing. It's that you can look at 4 or 5 things, and when you're talking to a VC level, C-suite type of a person, it changed the dynamics of the relationship 100%. And again, for transparency, I don't tolerate people that lie, steal, or cheat at all. I just won't, and stick to the truth as close as there ever is. Mm-hmm. That got me through every discussion, everything I do, because I don't want to have to ever get caught in a spot where, ooh, I thought you said this or you said that. That's the integrity part. So, Brad, sorry I jumped in there a little bit, but I thought I had with the other products that we do and other things we do for companies like Caesars, Entertainment, or the Marriott, or the Chickasaw Nation of Indians in Oklahoma. They're in dire need of help to get their Cisco infrastructure going. Okay, but what's their secondary goal? We have no idea how to deal with cybersecurity, and we need help with those too. I'm like, okay, so we fix one and we go to the next. Oh, by the way, since you have casinos, shouldn't you be sanitizing in a way better way than you are today, using serve products? It's like that. So, Brad, back to you. I talked to you.
Yeah, no,
we appreciate it.
I agree. I think the main point of that is you're always kind of bobbing and weaving. It's finding the best product for the best consumer at the best time that takes care of a need for them. A lot of times, I sell a lot of print and packaging, custom boxes, labels, and stuff like that. Yeah. And so vendors that I buy from it's very cut and dry. Here's your box. When I go to my customer, it's what's wrong with this box? What can make it better for you? What can save you money in the production line if we redesigned it this way? But a lot of manufacturers don't do that. So that's kind of where you're taking care of someone's problem. You're bobbing, you're weaving, and to go back to your original question, in a way, maybe it's not as much anymore. I kind of feel like there's 2 different types of people in this world that do have that entrepreneurial spirit, and they're willing to do whatever and put everything on the line all the time and just keep moving forward and working nonstop. And other people who are more than happy, clocking in, clocking out, getting their vacation time, having that security, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's not for some people. I would go absolutely bonkers if I had to sit in an office all day, and it'd be nice at 5 o'clock to clock out and not have to worry about work and getting calls at midnight. But it's well worth it. So yeah, it's just some people are built a little bit different that way.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, from what I'm kind of understanding, based on what you guys were kind of elaborating on between each other, is you guys kind of focus on finding a central problem that a business or a large group of people may need, and then you kind of come up with your own solution for that. Have you ever got into your own solution that you thought was going to work and have it just completely backfire and be in like way too deep or something like that?
Oh yeah, that happens more often than not. A lot of times, and actually this week is even though what day it is Tuesday, but it feels like it's already Friday because I've been working nonstop already. But it's been putting out fires, is how I put it. Just problems that happen, and a lot of times it's the vendor's fault and things that I wouldn't be able to even check on. But when the customer comes to me with the problem, that they've found, it's no problem. I'll take care of it right away. It's my responsibility. Even though someone else screwed it up, it's my responsibility, and I'm taking care of it right away. And there was one I always remember. It was a really big company, and it was a new box design we were doing for this holiday edition of one of their products, and the way the ink was laid on the box, basically, there was so much ink because there was so much artwork on it, and the box material was so thin, it was bending the boxes, so they wouldn't fold properly, and it caused a huge problem in the production line because they weren't able to fold these boxes around their products. So once again, we had to go back and figure it out, and those are the type of times. So I remember, this has been years ago, and I was there at the manufacturing facility from about 6 p.m. to about noon the next day, watching the whole job be runs and make sure there were no problems going on. So yeah, it happens all the time, and you just gotta fix it and make your customer happy. And if you do that, once again, that goes back to relationships. They know you're not going to leave them high and dry. They're going to come back to you because this guy takes care of it.
Yeah, you get the job done, you help them out, do it the right way.
No matter what.
Exactly.
No matter what.
So,
yeah.
Yep. We're running a little short on time, but we wanted to ask you just, a couple fun questions just to kind of wrap this up. Who are some of the coolest people you know? Anyone really interesting?
Let me tell you what I just did on Friday. Okay, so Patrick Warburton, I don't know if you know that name. The show Seinfeld, his name was Putty. He was Elaine's boyfriend. He does every voiceover for every cartoon out there, and he's on Family Guy, a whole bunch of stuff. He's a golfing buddy of mine, and he puts on a golf tournament out in Palm Springs every year. So I was out there Friday, and I was hanging out with Alice Cooper, ZZ Top, Creed, Collective Soul, all of these bands. And it was funny, I was in the kind of after party in the lobby lounge after at the hotel, and this guy comes up and grabs me from behind, and I was getting a drink, and he goes, "You're not buying a drink, I'm buying you a drink, and you're going to come sit at our table." And I'm like, all right. And he was Alice Cooper's bass player for the last, 30 years. And we just had a great time. So
that's awesome.
But those are the relationships, and I've met a lot of people. I do some work with Eric Dickerson right now, who's the Hall of Famer from the NFL. Lots of different people.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about Eric Dickerson.
I've got kind of similar list. I grew up in Los Angeles, and when I say the coolest people, you said the coolest people I know. Some of it's really kind of old, some of it's still relevant. Like, I grew up with bands throughout Los Angeles in the 80s and 90s, and I still am in touch with those bands, like Missing Persons, like Oingo Boingo, kind of like punk. I'm still in touch with bands like Social Distortion because I'm an old punk rocker kind of guy. And then growing up, within blocks of my house or on my street, we had the president of Capitol Records who discovered the Bee Gees and produced all of the Bee Gees stuff, and so I met all those type of people. I had Bo Derek and Christine Brinkley living down the street from me. Marion Ross from Happy Days, and Henry Winkler. We knew them. My mom, who's 91, is still friends with Mary and Ross. It's kind of cool. When we, and I don't know if you've heard of Gallo wines. Some of it's kind of crappy, some of it's good. Depends which version you're buying it. But yeah, I grew up at the Gallos too. And the last one I would think that's kind of fun and neat was the Batemans. You met Justine Bateman or Jason Bateman. Justine was on Family Ties and went on to become a project manager and getting her MBA from UCLA. And Jason obviously just stuck with all the movie industry. And my friend, and a good friend of mine, really good friend of mine, that is not known by name, introduces the Academy Awards every year and runs and is the senior VP of programming for NBC Universal Hulu. So it's kind of, it depends on what time frame you want to zone that in on. I've known a lot of different celebrities, I guess, and cool people. Eric Dickerson's totally cool. Marcus Allen's totally cool. Met lots of USC alumni. So it's a big list actually, and just kind of how I grew up. And with all those types of people, the cool people, and as well as the guys that have been the people that have been really successful, they're high touch, and you can never cross a bad line with them because you're out for whatever.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that answers questions, but here, now that I'm in Orange County, there's not too much of we got Mike Ness from Social Distortion down the street, but that's about it.
That's it. Well, it sounds like you've met, plenty of people throughout your lifetime. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this interview, but we really appreciated having you guys on here. Is there any kind of final words or thoughts you guys wanted to share?
Nah, the one thing I was kind of thinking earlier is I've gone through a lot of big life struggles and with diseases and family members and deaths and a lot of things, and people would say to me all the time, like, I don't know how you do it, and it kind of relates back to business. I would always say, what do you mean? I get up in the morning, I do everything I have to do for that day, I go to bed, I wake up, and I do the same thing the next day. And you just power through everything every day. Get as much done as you can, and do it again the next day. And that's kind of my mantra, I guess, in a way. It's always been that way. I was a single father, raising my son. My wife had passed away from cancer, and running a business. And it was a lot of work for a long time. But you just do it. Yeah. There's no excuses. There's no, oh, woe is me. You just do it. You do what you got to do every single day to make stuff happen.
Exactly.
Yep, definitely.
You got to wake up and just get it done.
Thank you guys so much again.
The only thing also, there's no crying. It's hard work. And yeah, I'm also the same. I'm like Brad on this. And I get yelled at by my family a lot. We go to Hawaii quite a bit because that's where we just like that, or Palm Springs is our backup places from Los Angeles, just to get away from here in Orange County. And I still work there. I take my notebook, I do what I do. and then I squeeze in, I don't just go to Hawaii because we're doing a family vacation and it's, this is where I get in trouble. I go there because that's where I'm just moving my office a little bit. And while I'm there, I'm going to do at least one sales call a day with people that I've been involved with, like the Hawaiian Tug and Barge guys or the Marriott International that actually runs all the Hawaiian Islands. And I'm trying to teach them and work with them and stay in touch with them. It's got a few perks because of my status with Marriott, and all I do is call ahead and I'm like, hey, by the way, I put in for this, I'm coming. And they're like, okay, we're going to put you in this nicer room. That's nice, right? But it's because I never
Because it comes with work.
I know.
You're
It's
working
work.
something.
For stuff.
Yeah.
You deal
Always
with it.
working.
Sounds like you guys are always on the grind, always staying busy.
Yep.
Constantly.
Yep.
Well, we really appreciate you guys, taking time out of your day to talk to us. We've reached our deadline for time, so we just want to say thank you again. It means a lot. And,
Absolutely. It's our
appreciate the
pleasure.
advice.
And thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, guys.
You too.
Guys, appreciate it.
Yep. Bye.
All right, that was episode 2 of the Pitch Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.